¿Dónde están las mujeres? Ven acá que son las boletas. Ti, 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 ti. La tengo pegada en la cabeza, esa canción. Anyway, hello. Another blog. Um, I'm painting. You can't see it on the screen right now, but I'm doing this little guy. I need to do the hands, and that's literally why I stopped because I was like, "Fuck that." Um, so I did the background first for this one. I spent a lot of hours kind of like blending this in. So I'm really proud because usually like I just do things really fast and I'm trying to learn how to work more slowly to get more details. Um and I think working in layers might be a good thing, but I I paint with acrylic. So I don't know. I feel like it's like with oil painting it seems like you can just blend things right away and maybe the layering might work a little bit better, but I feel like in acrylic I just paint something and I paint over it and it's gone. So there's no layers. There's only like blocks of color, basically, which is how I do my shadows and everything. And I'm fuck, I dropped that. I'm still getting better at it, but I like the contrast with the blue body and the orange background. Another addition is this like drafting table. It goes up, like it goes up, it goes down to be a normal table. Like it's such a cool desk. I'm so happy that I got it. I got it on Marketplace. It's very light, and down here, there's yeah, you can see down there. There's like a storage thing, which is really big. Actually, I have all my paint down there, and I have markers, and it's not like I own that many art materials anyway, but it's very convenient. So I'm really happy with the progress. And this is where I was sketching. I was also standing up because I still don't have a chair. Well, I do have a chair, but I leave it in the living room. So this is the sketch that then kind of became this. Once again, like I mentioned in another video, just seeing the things that I paint, like as I'm going in the process, it's going great, and I'm listening to Amy Winehouse, and I'm listening to Bob Marley, and I'm just kind of like in this flow, painting, doing all these details, and like drawing and all that. But then after a while, I'll just step back, and I'm like, why are all my paintings so sad? And I think especially right now I know the answer. Like I do feel like I'm kind of like containing myself like this because it's been a bit of a rough week. Like it's not like the roughest week I've ever had in my life. It's just that I just kind of moved to this place. I don't really have like solid friends yet. I met cool people. Difficult with my roommate. Um, I was excited for him to arrive because I did want to like form a friendship, but I think I don't know, maybe I was a bit too rough at the beginning with like the expectations that I had of the house or asking for cleanliness or whatever. Um yeah, or just I don't know. I feel like I can be very bitchy and it is unfortunate and it's not a nice trait. Like I want to give this vibe and energy of being a relaxed kind of person and I feel like I give it, but that's really not who I am at the end of the day. Like I can be very anxious and just, you know, kind of like helicopter parenting sometimes and it's not nice, I can not people don't like it and it definitely drives people away. So I think I've just been thinking about how to balance like my own personality with being someone who people want to be around, because I do think there are nice things about me, but ultimately negative things can overpower the positive ones, and I understand it because I'm also the first one to leave when I don't like something, and I feel like that's the kind of person that I'm living with right now, and I'm just nervous. I just feel nervous because I don't want this to set the precedent for the rest of the year. Like we have to live for a year together, what if it's horrible? I don't want to feel that way. Like I've already cried like 3 times just feeling like we're not connecting, and I feel like I already messed up, the um the image that I gave of myself. And also this is not a person that likes to communicate a lot, so I just feel like I am giving it even more stress when I try to communicate more. But I'm the kind of person who needs a lot of clarity on things, so I just want to know like what exactly do you do, how exactly are you feeling, can we talk, can we fix it, like I just have all these questions like running through my mind all the time, and I know that asking them right now is not going to be very helpful. Like this person just probably needs space until we can connect. And I guess my anxiety right now is like, what if we don't? Like, what if it never happens? So I just feel like that's why this is me, this is just me kind of like holding all my thoughts within myself a little bit until maybe the moment to open them up comes out. And I hope that moment comes out, because it's not like I can change roommates. I mean, I cannot evict this person. That would be shitty. um and so I think there's just kind of that happening right now. I think another thing is that I'm taking all these philosophy classes, and it's just a little hard to get readapted into the reality that a lot of people who do philosophy and academia don't really care about the world that they're analyzing, beyond theory, which is unfortunate. But it's something I was talking about with someone yesterday, about how, let's say, like, I do a lot of studies on race and racism, and like the realities of the global south and inequalities, and like even class struggle and things like that. Especially in my circles, I feel like there's a lot of Marxists, or people who are inspired by a sort of Marxist tradition. um and then people end up being really snobby after. They do end up being very like, not really caring, or just maybe wealthy, maybe never had a job, like maybe, like people who talk about race and racism, but they don't know how to talk to black people, or you can tell that in their circles there's like not a single black person, which you could obviously blame on the way that the US racially divides society and groups, because people, it's just, if you're in a white space, it will just be white people. If you're white, probably most people around you will be white, because um people from other races won't really be approaching you or inviting you into their spaces, and you also won't feel comfortable in those contexts, and won't even want to put the effort into deconstructing what that means, and why you should be the one approaching, perhaps, and why you should not be feeling uncomfortable, or at least how to understand that discomfort in a way that allows you to explore the space without or with less prejudices, I guess. Because I do think it's possible. I think it's possible for everybody. You just kind of have to go in with the willingness to be wrong about beliefs that you have, and with the willingness to be uncomfortable, because it will be uncomfortable, obviously, to do something that you're not used to doing. But that's a lot of effort, and that's why a lot of people just prefer to read about it and write about it rather than live it. And I think that has always been my critique of the people who are around me in philosophy spaces. Like, I had this in undergraduate a lot as well, just feeling like my professors just didn't care, and they just didn't, they would be talking about all these things, but they just had like such a mild approach to life. And there are very concrete examples that I have in mind that I cannot really openly talk about without risking being deported. So I'm not gonna do that, because I don't want to be deported. So if this is ICE or the FBI watching, just know that I'm all great, not talking about anything that you might think is bad. Yeah. But it would happen, like my professors would talk about all these kinds of injustices and whatever, and then just have such a like whatever approach to life or to involvement. They saw their role as being educators, as showing you the things that people should be thinking about, and then just kind of letting you go into the world with those ideals. But if they're not even practicing those own ideals, like, it just always felt so half-assed, that the expectation was there for other people to do it. Because if most people who are not even thinking about injustices on the day to day, they're just living life kind of, you know, on a day by day basis, in a very, immediate reality kind of way. Like, oh, well, I have to go to my job, and then I go to the gym, and then I have dinner, and I go to sleep, and that's it. And these people are not thinking about politics, or thinking about the state of international relations, and about, injustices happening in the world, and injustices happening in their own community, and racism and things like that. But they're just thinking about, eating and going to the gym and then going to bed. um, then how can you expect the people that are thinking about these things and still choosing not to do anything about it? Like, I mean, not how, like, it's just weird. Like, it's, you are sitting down and thinking about all these things, and then you teach it to people who don't usually think about it as often, so that they start thinking about it. But your ultimate conclusion is just like, think about it and stay there. um Yeah, and it's because I think philosophy can give you such room to avoid being in the world. I'm doing Latin American philosophy, and I'm also doing this other class where we're doing phenomenology right now. And basically, I kind of love that other class because no one is pretending to care about the world. I think they're very explicit about the way that they experience of reality in a fragmented kind of way. Because when you think about a phenomenological analysis, you're trying to bracket a moment of existence to analyze it and say like, okay, what is happening here? Like, how am I perceiving this? How is this thing informing me? You take a very concrete moment in time, and you kind of pause everything around you, even though time is still passing. Like, you're just kind of hyper focusing on that. um which you could apply to anything, right? Like, they could apply to injustices, but most people are just thinking about it in a very ontological way, like in a very existence type of way, just theory, just for the fun of it, just because it can reveal. I mean, they always give that preamble, right? Like, well, this study can help you understand so much more about the world and so much more about the things that matter. But usually people really hyper focus on that um beginning part, on that I don't know how to put it, on that part that is almost like, it's not metaphysical, but yeah, just in that process for the fun of it, because it is fun. I At least I think that it's fun to think about existence in a philosophical way, in this kind of like mind fuck type of way. um but most people usually stay there, and I think especially people who dedicate themselves to doing phenomenology and studying these philosophers who are just thinking about existence and very abstract things, and very like and things very much in the realm of ideas. They don't claim to care about what's happening in their immediate surroundings. They don't pretend to care about injustices. They're just like, that's not what I'm thinking about right now. I am thinking about how I am thinking. I'm thinking about how I am existing, and that's it. And if there's children dying somewhere over there, like, maybe what I'm thinking about might help other people. Those tools might help them think about those kids. But I'm thinking of the tools, let them think about the kids. Whereas in other disciplines, people are like just so hyper focused on the injustices and reading about them in order to understanding them and understanding where they origin and all that. But they just kind of sit with that knowledge, or maybe they pass it on and they teach it to other people who also care about them in theory, but they're not going. I don't know if that doesn't feel like it affects the way that they live. Like, I would hope so, and to some extent passively maybe it does, but it seems like they just learn it and then they just kind of go back to the normal reality that they have, and they just keep hanging out in the same racial groups, and they don't really ever figure out how to talk to people who are not educated like they are. And then they keep on like being very privileged and just profiting very heavily off of that without um taking the time to understand why their privilege is there, and whether they want, like, whether it's fair for them to keep having it or not. Like, I don't know. I always make this joke that the greatest Marxist that I know, not greatest, but like the person that I know that is the most obsessed with Marx and Marxism, has never had a job. I think until this summer, he worked in a cafe or something, but otherwise, like, this person just comes from a really wealthy family, and he's really obsessed with like this whole idea of like redistributing and the exploitation of labor and all these like and all, yeah, okay, I'm done. I don't want to like dox this person or dox myself to them, because I think they're great, but it's that is academia for me. The fact that you can have this person who is so rich talking about the exploitation of labor, but like they've never had a job themselves. They've never participated in labor, you know? They profit from people's labor probably for their subsistence and like for everything that has ever led them to where they are today. So I guess you could say that maybe they're like fighting for the people around them. But can you really understand it if you've never taken the time to sit down and go have a job, like a labor intensive job? And then in another seminar I had, like, we were talking about, it was like, oh, well, I think the end of the world came about, and like this idea of, climate change and how we're probably all gonna die and everything. And it was kind of like, if something happened tomorrow, no one knows how to grow food. Like, people don't do it anymore. People only eat like from packages. And I'm like, well, go on, like, is it that you can sit down and read this entire book and spend hours analyzing it? Can't you open a YouTube video and learn how to grow a tomato? Like, you know That's why, I mean, I've been farming because I'm like, this is a crucial thing to know, and it's important to know how to live more sustainably. So I was like, let me, maybe I learned it in academia, and I'm like, let me go practice it, let me go farming and like see actually how it is. And it's a fucking tough job, but at least I know a thing or two about growing some greens now. And I feel like academics always put this barrier between their object of study and life. Like, they just isolate it so much to a point that can be digested mentally, but they forget that it comes from reality. So they never like go beyond the book. I think it's just been like a reckoning that I've had this week, that I'm like, okay, I'm back in this kind of space. It is a reality of the kind of space that I'm in, and it's like been my forever fear, and to become one of these people that never leave the books and don't try to break away from the academic language. I mean, it's important to master it because it is the one that is dominant. Like, I could not ever aim to publish a book if it's not in the language that is used for publishing books, especially in like a philosophical academic language. I understand that and I need to master that. But then I think it's also important to know how to explain these things in, let's say, common speak, and how to sit down and talk about this with people, and how to understand what people are telling you when they're not speaking in academic language. Because most of these theories, a lot of them can or cannot apply based on how accurate they are in reality, and whatever. Yeah, I just think that like people just need to get out more. Like, they just need to fucking go talk to other people who are not in their universities all the time. And so there's been a couple things happening this week, like that. And I also like crashed my bike. A scooter crashed my bike, and I flew away from the bike. Like, I'm fine, and I think I had the shock after. I still have it. Like, it's been a couple days, but sometimes I just like remember the crash and I like flinch a little bit, or I just think about how nothing happened to me, and that's also like a crazy thought because the scooter was coming pretty fast, and I just fell like sitting down. So I didn't even get that many bruises. I just like hurt my ass, but no bones, no nothing, like my face is fine, which is crazy. That's not usually how people get away with it. So it's just been kind of an intense week to start, to be honest. The content of my classes is fine. Like, I like it. I think like I'm just a little bit disappointed at the fact that I don't know why I expected that I would come to a space where people were like so somewhat into organization or something, or just like into participating in life, but it seems like so far that's not super the case, at least not with the things that they study. Like, I do think they participate in their own lives, um in those extents. Like, they do go out, they have drinks, they talk about the things that they do on the day to day, they work out and everything. But at that point, it's just like, yeah, I feel like it's easy to get saturated with all the things that we're reading about, that then you don't want to think about it anymore in the world. So you just kind of leave it in the classroom, or you leave it to your paper, and then when you're not thinking about that, you're just in the world, and it's like, that's like when these two worlds should be bridging. And I'm probably being uncharitable. I've only been here for a week as well. It's just like little things that I've noticed that have me like kind of going on this tangent. But I have hope, I have faith, and I think like for the first thing, it's working on my attitude towards things as well. Being more patient, being more kind. Um, Giving also with my roommate, giving my roommate space, to um come to their own conclusions about who I am, and hopefully show them a better face of myself and all that, so that we can have some peace, and have a good relationship. I think that would be ideal. And similarly with my colleagues and everything, because this is gonna be my life now, and yeah, yeah, this is gonna be my life now. And at least I always have art, to return to if things things get difficult. I have I have her, and I think that's the most important thing.